consequences that it's had, right? And you know, sometimes those are unintended. People get all excited about stuff and they don't think about it. And so, you know, when we have laws, and sometimes that leads to other laws. And also they're going to talk about it. And so introduce yourself and tell them what you do.
Okay.
And we know Robert. Robert comes a lot, but they have a lot of children. And so Andrea can't always come.
Yeah, all right. Okay, yes, I'm Andrea Scott, and this is my husband, Robert. We've got 5 children, and we've, ages 2 to 13. And we've been homeschooling, for about a decade now. So we've pretty much, been doing it the whole time, and we love it. It's the best. I am the founder of Oklahomeschooling. It's a local homeschool group. I do a lot of things around the Tulsa area. I always welcome surrounding, areas to come to town. And I try to offer, we do a bi-weekly chess club, a book club, a science fair. We did a talent show. We've done just all sorts of kids markets. But what's interesting is I try to always focus on free, except for the science fair. I had to charge for that because of the location, but I try to offer free events as most as possible, and you're about to find out why here in this presentation. I'm also the coordinator of the Oklahoma Coalition to Protect Constitutional Homeschooling. It's a mouthful. I organized that last year whenever school choice legislation started. I grabbed as many homeschool supporting groups in Oklahoma together to combat the bill, and I'm going to cover a little bit of that here too. Okay, so the Oklahoma Constitution, it's old, but it's not outdated. Whoever says that it is, it isn't. We need to stand by our Oklahoma Constitution. In the Constitution, you'll see this section right here, and it says the legislature shall provide for the compulsory attendance at some public or other school unless other means of education are provided. That would be homeschoolers.
You'll see the legislature use that terminology a lot when they're referring to homeschooling. So it's kind of important because
when you hear by other means of education.
It's not just homeschoolers. It's other, like maybe think of the Amish community out in Coweta. They're other means of education.
Exactly. And I think they homeschool their kids up to like age 12. And then, of all the children in the state who are sound in mind and body between the ages of 8 and 16 years for at least 3 months in each year. Okay, so these are the types of schooling we have: public school, online charter schools, private school, and homeschool. I put in here, online charter schools are not homeschooling. That's huge, because once those started coming in, everybody started to redefine homeschooling and what it was. Well, my kid does EPIC. It's an online charter school. We're homeschoolers. Yeah, but you're taking money from the state, and that's controlled. You have the regular standardized testing. It's completely different than what true homeschoolers have had over and have fought for so many years. Okay, so what defines homeschooling? Free of government influence and obstruction. There's co-ops. I don't run a co-op, but a co-op is something where a family normally gets together with other families and they work out a system that works best for them. And then there's independent, which, is the independent family. And that's what we personally do. It's more of a, private education at home, basically. We do, like I said, my group, we get together for social events and things like that. But whenever it comes to the core curriculum, it's at home independent. Okay, how your tax dollars pay for education. This is important. Every taxpayer in Oklahoma pays for public schooling, whether or not they have school-age children. Okay, the 2021 to 2022 year cost about $11,000 per student. What changed? In 2023, school choice vouchers, HB 1934. So it made $5,000 to $7,500 per child for private school. We are giving money to pay for private schoolers now. Okay, which doesn't make it much of a private school anymore if it's getting publicly funded, tax dollars. Okay, $1,000 per child for homeschoolers. We're not taking the money for each of our kids, but we could if we wanted to. We don't want to because we know it's going to come with strings attached, and that's what I'm about to come to here in a second. Okay, it is a welfare and not a tax return. Remember how I said that everybody pays for taxes? That's why it is a welfare, because we're giving they're going to receive more than what they paid in. Government expansion in all forms of education. Like I said, it's now in private schools. All schools are now public schools here in Oklahoma. It's huge. Failed in the Senate in 2022, so they already tried, but it passed last year, 2023. Who supported this? I've got several groups here who did support it this last year. The AFP, OCPA, OCPAC, OK2A, and OKHPR. 13 other states have school choice programs. This is not new to Oklahoma. This is, we've got several here. I also have here the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization plans to use government regulations to ensure equity in private school choices. Okay, so we've opened the door for encroachment. The 2024 drafted legislation are these bills this year. HB 4130, let's go ahead. Okay, so HB 4130 is from SWOPE. It also has MINS and DEC on it. This is what it's done. Homeschooling parents must coordinate with DHS every 6 months. All homeschooled members must complete DHS background check. A letter of intent on personal parenting decisions submitted to DHS. A statement to DHS for personal decision to educate by other means. Okay.
Basically, we went from a lightly, no unregulated homeschooling environment to this bill proposed a complete takeover of the government for homeschoolers.
Has that passed?
It hasn't actually even gotten out of committee. Hasn't even.
No, we've had a lot of representatives say, oh, it won't get out of committee. So we're hopeful. Democrats did do the bill, so we're pretty hopeful on this one. But it sure alarmed. It made national news. This particular one did.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I can't see your slides real well. Is there? No, it's not. It's my eyes.
Oh.
Is there a way that we can get a copy of your slide, just your slideshow? Do you have it available so we can? So I don't have to try to keep coming up.
Sure,
with
sure.
pictures? And then what's the bad part about? And I'm ignorant, so I'm just asking for clarification. What's wrong with having not necessarily DHS or having an oversight over homeschooling programs that make sure their kids are being taught the ABCs?
Well, first it starts like that. And this is an other means of education. So not everybody, needs to fit the curriculum that the state decides upon. It's an innovative method. It's different. We don't want a one-size-fits-all. That's why we're homeschooling.
So is it like Montessori?
It can be Montessori. It can be Charlotte Mason is a method that people use. But and some parents don't approve of the inundated testing that they receive. So when the government steps in, it may just be something about, hey, sign this form. We just want to know you're homeschooling. But then that's how it starts out, and then the next year, they want more information. When we were when this bill first came to our attention, it was told that it was going to be a sign up. But then when we received the bill, it was, we need everybody in your house background tested, which to me sounds like a violation of the Fourth Amendment. I haven't committed a crime, but the government wants to come into my house. And every adult has to be background checked, and then you have to report to DHS. So and that's not even the part of the schooling. That's just DHS.
You don't want DHS.
No, you don't.
No. So I've heard.
No. And why should we be watched more than any other parent? Why should we be discriminated against? You know what I mean? It is a huge discriminated bill. So no, it doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's go to the next one.
Yeah, all the names on there are Democrats.
Yes.
The Democrats can't do anything in our legislature.
Exactly.
So is this bill shriveled up and died?
It should be. It should definitely be. Yeah. The next one is by Republican Kane, making it so homeschoolers may participate in public school activities. The Department of Education will set rules for those homeschoolers who participate. And I put here, it wouldn't be fair for public schoolers if they didn't, and that's true. I mean, public schoolers, they have to keep up a grade point average to be able to participate in sports and things like that. Why should homeschoolers take advantage of it and not have to, do the same rules?
And we have our own homeschooling. We have NOAA, the Northeast Oklahoma area homeschoolers. They do all sorts of sports. We have plenty of independent homeschooling activities for kids. Science fairs are held in Oklahoma City. Ingrid just started one here in the Tulsa area. So
we've got several options whenever it comes to sports, and many homeschoolers agree with us. This is not an issue. So
What about though that homeschoolers, if they can participate, like say, BEGS or some of these schools that have gone on to state, they may be already getting scouts or whatever, coming to that.
Well, one of the
they miss out on that.
Yes. Well, no, actually they don't. The one that Robert just mentioned, NOAA, they do make state. So I mean, we have our options as homeschoolers, just getting that information out there to homeschoolers. But we really have had an influx of homeschoolers here lately, and with the private online schoolers, they're getting enmeshed with our communities. So it's a lot of spreading information to everyone right now. Like this is what's available. Yeah, go ahead.
Are these representatives that are bringing forth these bills, is it their idea, or are they getting ideas from somewhere outside?
Yeah, no, they're not getting them from homeschoolers. I'm not sure where they're getting these
Other
ideas.
states,
Possibly from other states, possibly watching other states and what they're doing, but from, the homeschooling communities, not that we're aware of.
I
What?
think that's, didn't they have some homeschoolers that, don't they have already a rule on the books that homeschoolers can participate in sports activities?
I don't believe so.
No,
I don't believe so.
I've taught public school, private school. My children have public school, private school, and homeschool. I'm currently homeschooling a granddaughter that came to me from Muskogee in honors classes, straight A student, 8th grader. I tested her, and I am just blown away how far behind she is. And I've seen it for a long time, but also I'm on a school board there at Henrietta. One of the topics that got brought up last night was because we are sending students to colleges and they have to take 0 credit hours. And I'm talking, we've got salutatorians that I know of, and I'm thinking probably some valedictorians too, because of the data is there. And they're getting to our colleges and having to take 0 level classes.
Wow.
Oh, good
So
Lord.
a lot of parents now that are becoming aware of this are becoming upset. So they've
So
started.
is that homeschool people, or is that?
No, this is
Public
public
school.
Public school students I'm speaking of right now. So they implemented and put a requirement on us that we were supposed to look at the data with the kids, our dropout rates, also what they're doing in college. Is this really following true, and what's the dropout rate there? They handed me something last night and it told me no data whatsoever.
At the school board meeting.
Right. And I looked at it again and again and again, and I thought, this tells me absolutely nothing. And it came down through the state. And so then the principals really started trying to backpedal, and they said, well, the problem is the homeschool group. They said, and I said, what would the homeschool group have to do with that? And he proceeded to try to tell me that they can't collect data on them.
Yes, I think that's huge. A huge goal in a lot of what's going on right now is collecting the data.
And we don't want it. And
we don't want it.
Andrew's
That's why we're not taking $1,000, because that's exactly what everybody. They've got the data on the private schoolers now, and now the homeschoolers. Yeah, go ahead.
Are you guys part of the classical conversations?
No, but I have classical conversations in my coalition. I'm in contact with 2 of the directors with them. It's a great group.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so if let's just say I'm homeschooled, I decide to go to college. In the old days, you had to take the ACT test, you had to read at a certain level,
Yeah.
compose sentences at a certain level.
Yes, still do. But also, oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so who's going to certify these homeschool kids?
Okay, well, a lot of them do take the ACT. The GED is not necessary, actually. Most colleges have their own entrance exam. You know,
you can take the ACT. A lot of colleges are geared towards homeschooling families. I mean, I found this out. I thought the same way. I'm a product of public school system. I went to OSU and got my engineering degree. And when Andrea wanted to homeschool the kids, it was interesting to find out that a lot of the college system, embrace homeschooling. And a lot of the families, they have methods on how to, keep score of your kids through their, whatever they call it, the scoring, I don't know.
Transcript.
Thank you, transcript. But yeah, they have to take the ACT, just like a public school kid would. And it's the same thing, they have to fill out an entry form, even like the United States Navy, the Naval Academy is set up. You go to the website and they'll have a method to get into naval or apply for the Naval Academy as a homeschooler.
Okay, but in my day, this child can't go past the 3rd grade because he can't read on the 2nd grade level, so they held you back.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
That is no more.
No.
It's
Yeah.
no more.
And that's ridiculous.
And I recently came out and I saw, and I'm a data person, and I continue to see that, and that's why we have a lot of these issues right now. And what you're seeing is involved parents. And one thing that because I've homeschooled before in the past, a doctor friend of mine's child as well as one of my children. So then recently here I am back in doing it again. And I have been shocked because I was teaching in public schools during COVID. And then I saw the devastation that happened when they came back. And also through that, we got a lot of free use for teachers, but to me it was at a great cost because along with my social security number got linked to every child that was in my classroom, as well as every one of those children now that are at school, their social security and their IQ is listed that. And a lot of public people do not realize that. And if you're a history person, you'll know what's happened in the past to children when that type of information gets in the wrong hands. Yes.
So, but we're going to be a top 10 state, but we fall from 47 to 49 in the education system.
Well,
they try to attract industry to Oklahoma. Nobody's coming till the healthcare and the education gets better. I can tell you that, people.
Yeah.
I've talked to some corporate.
Well, we don't want the
people,
state
they say
in homeschooling.
Right,
So we don't want the state solution.
And we've had several families, the type of families that you do want in your state, have moved to our state because we have had a strong homeschooling option and parents have that option. I was also getting ready to say I have been shocked at how innovative private schools got during COVID, that now to reach out here in your rural areas, I could, and the tuition is based on how much I send them. They can go 1 day a week, they could go 2 days a week, enroll 3 or 5, and so they give options. Public school is not, and we're still trying to fight the same battles, and you're getting, how do I say this?
Shortchanged.
Yeah, very, very short-changed, and every bill that we try to pass to say you don't want to, you can read or hold accountability, there's loopholes again and again and again. This year alone, down in my district, they told me that we couldn't get teachers. They put 5 teachers in the classroom without teacher certifications and emergency, and 2 of those had only high school diplomas, and all they had to do was pass the background check.
Except, is there any, not to put what you're saying negatively, but how many homeschooler parents have any kind of teaching experience.
Okay,
as
yes.
well.
Okay,
So that's,
well,
that's where
okay, so,
your
yeah,
critical
so our child, our
conversations and
firstborn,
stuff.
he was actually at
Andrea talk.
he was actually,
Well, that's a good question.
he was
I mean,
actually
we
at
came
a,
here to keep,
yeah.
we're talking about getting
Yeah.
government out, but we
Okay,
could talk for
yeah.
hours about the benefits of homeschooling.
Yeah, so
Yes.
our son was at a second grade reading level at preschool. So I mean, he's
the point is,
brilliant.
it's
And then
not-
my
it's not
daughter,
that-
she says that she reads better than any kid in church. So I mean, you know,
I mean, it's not that difficult to educate your children, and the reading is the gateway drug. If you can get your child reading at a young age, they will self-educate the rest of your life. I was skeptical when Andrea started homeschooling. We looked at going to a private school, but it was like, okay, Andrea, you're going to have to go get a full-time job. She was a pharmacy compounding tech, and it was like, okay, so we're going to spend all of your money to pay for these kids to go to private schooling. Let's just try it out. And no, I've seen it, I've witnessed it. If parents, that's the failure at public schools has a lot to do with the parents just aren't interested in being with their kids. You can't make parents, be interested in their kids' studies. So, I mean, that's not really what we're here to talk about, but it is a great question, and I love talking about homeschooling because I've lived it for 13 years, sorry. Yes?
There's also a discipline problem.
Yeah.
School.
But that's also stems from the parents too, because my sister was an educator at the public school system. She quit because of lack of discipline.
There is that, but there's also a lot of enforcement going on.
Right,
in
yeah.
public schools.
I went to school in the 90s. My friend had his bottom paddled.
Yeah.
And for misbehaving. And his mom was perfectly fine with it. But at the same time, my sister told the story. She finally left the public education system because she had a kid tell her to F off at school. He was a young little kid. Crazy word for a little kid to be saying. She went sent him to the principal's. Mother comes in, starts telling my sister all sorts of curse words. She said, I'm done. So, I mean, I'm not saying that I don't want to mistake that the public school system is a complete failure, but homeschooling works for us, and I'm sold. So, and again, we didn't really come here to.
There's also indoctrination going on.
Well, yeah, and there's that too. I'm not for sure. She wanted to homeschool, so I mean, I'm not.
okay,
Let's
so
talk about legislation.
okay, so we've got
Because
strong.
what we're trying to learn tonight are pros and cons of legislation.
Yeah.
So because we passed the voucher, people think, oh, vouchers is great. Private school homeschoolers will like it. They get this money to help them. But here are some of the consequences. So now that when you get the money, then you've got to.
Yeah, so this one is
Then
next.
this one.
Okay, so HB 3585, homeschoolers collecting tax credit must do regular state certified testing. And this is coming from a Republican, just noticing. Okay, assessments would be done at a state authorized facility, not at home. Anyone who doesn't apply or doesn't comply must return funds received from the Parental Choice Tax Credit Act to the tax commission within 60 days.
60?
Yeah, and this is to the tax commission.
And that's like
Mm-hmm.
$5,000 to $7,000
Yeah.
per child.
For homeschooling.
For homeschooling, it's $1,000 per kid.
If we have 5 kids, we could get 5,000.
Yeah. The student's assessment score is permanently in a state record for transcript purposes. Nope, there's one more, or a couple more, I think. Okay, so this one's HB 3944 from Provenzano and Waldron. I've met Waldron. He actually was against, of course he's a Democrat, but he was against the school choice tax credit. Now, here we are, he's making these bills. So, here we are. I mean, he told us it would happen, and here it is. Okay, must submit a detailed report to the tax commission of how the parental choice tax credit was spent. Yeah, details. Providing an explanation. Well, we're taking his public his public school money away, so he wants to know everything. Providing an explanation and demonstrate the direct impact the chosen resources have on the child. So, I customize my education for my kids. You know, my daughter, she's dyslexic, so she got a whole different experience than my son. He picked up sight words. He was a late speaker. I mean, we've got totally different kids here. So, you know, I'm going to have to convince, the tax commission that this is a good idea? Okay, the tax commission, not the Department of Education, will provide the reporting form, which they may audit and investigate to ensure compliance.
Does the public school have to submit this?
Well, they have to,
I think they just follow Common Core standards. So all of their stuff, I mean, the teachers
They
don't
probably don't.
No, well, the teachers don't even, well, I've heard mixed things. The teachers don't get to give their instruction, but then again, I've also heard they're plenty well off to say something LGBTQ or something.
But
So-
the point of this is that, you know, if the state's going to give away money, eventually, the point is if the state gives away money, they are going to regulate it. They have an obligation to regulate it. It's actually just when the government has to hold accountable for the money they spend. So even though it's the Wild West right now because school choice just passed, and you know, this legislature is not always going to be there. People, you know, if the money keeps going out, it's eventually going to be have to be held accountable. You can look at Arizona's probably got they've passed school choice earlier, and they're now going through the accountability phases, you know, reining it in. So that's, you know, just because they're Democrats today, you know, the legislature is going to turn over eventually.
And then Dom, he did SB 2007, property tax relief for homeschoolers. This homestead exemption will have an extra $1,000 added for any homestead where there are dependents who are homeschooled. An application must be made using a form by the tax commission. The burden of proof falls on the family. What detailed information will they require? It's more data. You know, we appreciate our privacy. You know, I mean, this is what makes us so special. You know, and even though, you know, the money's there, we just don't care for it. So, I mean, as homeschoolers, we don't. So, and you know.
Well, we know the risks.
Yeah.
Or should look for the risks.
Yeah, I think that might have been it. Oh, yes. Okay, so this is my group that I gathered. I told you that I had collected as many homeschool supporting groups as possible, and we had Uncle Sam as our guy up there, and that went out through the Capitol, visited with lots of Congress or legislators, but this is the group right here, the Constitutional Home Educators Alliance. That's here in Oklahoma. They've got a board. They're a lot more organized than I am, but I do still stay in contact with all of these groups. So, and we're all not so happy about, you know, what's going on with current legislation. So, but yeah, did you pass out the flyers? Okay, so we've got flyers for 2 of these, if anybody wants to look into that. But,
Well, Andrea, I had a question.
yeah.
States, and I'm thinking mainly of Arkansas next to us, that just went with the straight voucher versus the rebate the tax thing.
Mhm.
Have they been this aggressive as well?
Ours is technically a voucher too. We're just calling it a tax credit.
Okay, so it's going to operate. But
Yes.
do you know, are they as aggressive? You know,
I really haven't looked at other states. I only looked at Florida and Arizona, so I couldn't really speak much to Arkansas. A lot of states are different. A few states didn't include homeschoolers, and homeschoolers was a big push with the vouchers throughout the country. So.
Yeah, and then I've got Mount Rushmore
actually-
because, sorry, all of these presidents were homeschooled. That's our last slide. Yeah. Yeah.
Did public education.
Yeah. It didn't even exist back then.
No, that's
Yeah.
why they're homeschooled.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think private schools existed though. Yeah.
Yeah, it was private.
Yeah, private. Yeah, but these were homeschooled. Yeah.
Thank you, Andrea and Robert. That was very informative. And, you know, you may or may not agree with everything that was said. You know, we don't all have to agree on everything. But the point of the matter is we need to understand that when legislation's passed, there are a lot of unintended consequences. And Andrea and Robert, they were both interviewed by Channel 6, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was 6.
Back
wasn't it?
during, and oh man, you did such a great job.
Oh, thanks.
You guys came across so knowledgeable and professional and everything, and I'm like, I know them. So, very proud of you. Right now, they're narrowing down legislation, and if there are any of these things that you do not agree with, it only takes 5 phone calls to the legislator for them to go, oh, we've got people that are interested in us not passing this or what. But I want to remind you guys to be polite. When you call the legislators and you interact with them, don't be ugly, because if you're ugly, then what that does is that ruins your relationship with them. And then you have no voice.